If you value your freedom from surveillance as a citizen, this is about you. If you value fiscal responsibility by the government, this is about you. If you value energy security and community self-governance, this is about you. This is not a left versus right issue. This is a citizens who want to live and survive in the desert. That's what this issue is about.
Big tech's race for AI dominance has unleashed a wave of massive data centers all across the country. But at what cost to the communities that host them? My name is James Lee, and you're watching Beyond the Headlines on Breaking Points. Across the country, companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI are building massive data centers, each one consuming enough electricity to power a small city, along with using millions of gallons of water every day to keep servers cool. The promise? Jobs and innovation, but with a few byproducts. Namely, local communities are left with higher utility bills, depleted aquifers, and a potential inferno waiting to happen. For example, Meta is right now building a data center in Wyoming that would use more electricity than every home in the state combined. In Arizona, one of the driest places in the country, a $3.6 billion project known as Project Blue was set to build a massive data center on behalf of Amazon Web Services. That is, until a grassroots movement called the No Desert Data Center fought back and won, at least temporarily. And today I'm joined by several organizers from the No Desert Data Center, Vivek and Renee, to ask them what happens when big tech's digital empire collides with the real limits of the planet. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us on, James.
Absolutely. I want to start big picture first, because I think, to set the story up, we're being told that we're in the middle of an AI gold rush. Some say it's a bubble. But in order to fuel it, companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they are saying they need to race to build these massive data centers everywhere in order to compete. So from your perspective, how should we think about this from an economic and environmental trade-off perspective that is at the heart of every single one of these business decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for us, the answer was just started out with our own homes and households, right? For me, I was primed to be against data centers in my community because of stories I had heard from More Perfect Union about data centers coming up in Atlanta and Memphis that were really damaging to both the environment and to immediate neighbors, not even immediate neighbors, right? Like people who lived miles away, to the respiratory health. And I also know that our state corporation commission basically okays any rate hikes that utility companies come to them with. And what we know from our neighbors in Phoenix is that an increased energy demand that they've had over the past few years, 94% of that increased energy demand has come from data centers. And because our state corporation commission approves rate hikes, it's consumers who end up subsidizing those data centers for their costs. So very simply, it starts with our wallets, right? In terms of energy costs. Water usage is bananas if you want to build one of these things in the desert. The first plan that they came up with, that fortunately our city council voted down, was to basically cool this thing down with millions of gallons of water. Where do you find millions of gallons of water in the desert? That's what they couldn't answer for us. They came up with a whole bunch of non-answers, including like coming up with fake terms like water positivity, talking about like wet water, which is the water we know that's sitting in this water bottle right next to me, versus paper water, which is like rights, and trying to somehow equate those to make it sound like they'd be generating water. And these are the kinds of absurd conversations we were having when it came to trying to figure out like how to mobilize.
Yeah, and I think it's important to frame that question around a gold rush for who. In the Wild West, when people were coming and searching for gold, the everyday person, whoever could get access to the land, could find gold. But that's not the case with these data centers. These are huge corporate subsidies that our states and our local governments are giving to these corporate entities. and they are the ones who are profiting. We're seeing alone in Tucson a 10 to 1 profit extraction ratio. So they're the ones walking away with all the gold, not Tucson residents.
Yeah, that's a great point because that kind of leads me to my next question. Because on paper, what these projects do promise are things like jobs, tax revenue, quote unquote, innovation. But in practice, what have you seen happen to, let's say, the working class communities that live nearby these data centers? Are they getting some of the benefits as well? Or are they just basically bearing all the costs? What's your main concern with these data centers coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen what it looks like in Virginia and in Georgia for the people who have had these built. It's all speculation on what would happen in Tucson, but part of the work that I did when I was learning about Project Blue was looking into the contract and noticing that despite them promising jobs, there was nothing in the contracts that promised union workers would be used. There was nothing about promises of where the equipment would be bought, and so they could easily take their tax dollars and find a way to give those to out-of-state people to buy their equipment. So we wouldn't be getting that tax revenue from equipment that they would use, and the jobs that are being touted would most likely be very low paying and also low in number.
And ours isn't the only community that's fighting back, right? And we've seen even communities where they've already built data centers. One thing that one of our county supervisors learned in this process was that data centers beget data centers. I was lucky enough to visit Memphis this past weekend and I saw the XAI Colossus One facility that's out there, and I've seen media reports about it before, and I came away with the impression after watching those reports that that thing was like right in the middle of a neighborhood. It's not. The nearest residence is 1.7 miles away, which is really far. And there are a whole lot of residents within 2 miles, and then more within, a 5 mile radius of that air pollution. And they are suffering a lot of respiratory illnesses, and they're fighting back as a community against this facility. And our communities are learning from each other. Win or lose, we are going to do this in a way that other communities can learn from us as we have from other communities. We are fighting against this thing in our backyard. That does not mean we will not support others fighting it in their backyard. We are there for them, and and anyone who knows of a data center that's coming up can get in touch with us, and we will help you to the best of our ability.
Yeah, that's the next part I wanted to talk to you guys about because in Tucson, the developers behind Project Blue, which I know you talked about this, Vivek, was originally supposed to use millions of gallons of reclaimed water a year. I know some of that is a little bit of semantics. What is reclaimed? What is not? And after you guys defeated the project, they're now pushing forward with some kind of what they call closed loop air-cooled system that uses less water. But that design reportedly requires more electricity. How are you guys viewing this shift? Is this a real environmental solution that they're proposing, or just another form of greenwashing here?
Our position has always been not one drop for data, and it continues to be not one drop for data. It is unacceptable to build any kind of hyperscale data center out here in terms of the health impact it has on us. We know that no matter what, it will push up our energy costs because it has pushed up everyone's energy costs all over the country, wherever they build these large data centers. And the corporation and our private utility company, Tucson Electric Power, have not given us any details about how they will protect our ratepayers. They only say that our ratepayers will be protected. Ratepayers across the country have not been protected. They've been let down. Their energy costs are going up. And there are folks in Tucson who will die literally if they can't run their ACs because, on the day that the city council voted down Project Blue, we were out there, we were outside, waiting for the vote to finish. It was 114 degrees outside. People cannot survive in those temperatures indoors, and when they can't pay their power bills, as will happen, uh, we die.
Yeah, and the closed loop claim is absolutely greenwashing. Um, Arizona gets its power, at least in some portion, from water generated power. So they're able to say that they're not using our water, but TEP is using our water to provide us with electricity and to provide them with electricity. So again, read that contract. It's not what they're saying. It's not true.
Yeah.
Mm. And you guys already
Most of
have,
our, oh,
oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
James, just most of our electricity here comes from natural gas. Natural gas is extracted through fracking, which consumes a whole lot of water and destroys communities' environment in other places of the country. And the way natural gas plants work is, again, by consuming water to generate heat.
Yeah, and to follow up on your guys' efforts there, you've already forced Amazon and its partners to backpedal one time, which is something that, some people would think that's impossible. So kudos to you guys there. What's next for your organization in this, upcoming phase of the fight? And, more importantly, what are the strategies and lessons that you can share with other communities who might soon face their own version of Project Blue?
Great question. Our board of supervisors, which initially voted to sell the land to this developer, continues its support of the project. So we're continuing our pressure on them. We will be attending the next couple of board of supervisors meetings to essentially tell them to back out of this deal. They have an opportunity to enforce the land sale agreement, which stipulates that the closing one of the closing conditions that must be met in order for the land sale to close is for the city of Tucson to annex the land. We mobilized and stopped the city of Tucson from doing that. So as far as we're concerned, this is not a valid deal. We are not sure why the county insists that it is, but we're keeping up pressure there. The deal between TEP and the developer now goes to the State Corporation Commission. So we're encouraging everyone to submit a comment against the project. We will be showing up at those meetings when they do vote for this, and we will make it clear to the entire state of Arizona that this isn't good for us and it's not good for the state. And it's not good for any community that wants to fight back against it. I think, you mentioned Amazon. And this fight against data centers is also connected to the fight against authoritarianism and fighting for democracy. These data centers and AWS in particular have contracts with Palantir, which produces software surveillance software that was first used against immigrants and used against Palestinians and is now coming home well, it was already home, but is now going to be mobilized against a larger part of the population to stifle dissent and round up people. That data is stored in these data centers. So a fight against a data center near you is also a fight for democracy and to uphold the Constitution and against authoritarianism.
Yeah, and part of what I am really focused on in my role with the No Desert Data Coalition is to try to get a message out that lets people know that this is not a partisan issue. This is an issue that affects everybody, regardless of their political party. If you value your freedom from surveillance as a citizen, this is about you. If you value fiscal responsibility by the government, this is about you. If you value energy security and community self-governance, this is about you. This is not a left versus right issue. This is a citizens who want to live and survive in the desert. That's what this issue is about.
One of the elements of this thing that's been really important to us is our mayor made a call to say we have to figure out what we can say yes to. We can't just keep saying no to everything. And I fully agree, and we as a coalition fully agree that we have to figure out what we can say yes to. Um, I saw a piece you did before about charter schools where you mentioned that the state of Arizona had given up so much tax revenue in order to subsidize the cost of education for people who are already attending private schools. It's decisions like that at the state level that are forcing our cash-strapped municipalities, and at the federal level, that are forcing our cash-strapped municipalities to compete with each other for these terrible deals that are hidden behind NDAs, and we can't have any more of that. So what we're doing is we have a working group dedicated to figuring out what sustainable economic development can look like for our community, and we are working with our communities to figure out what are some ways that like we as Tucsonans can actually buy in and have a reliable return on investment for more numerous and a greater number of projects rather than going for these giant projects that potentially sound like they could come with a lot of money and are also tied to a lot of blood. We don't want that here. We want communities that are we want projects that our communities can actually benefit from materially.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, government for the people, by the people. I think that's what we're all looking for in the US. I think we're badly needing that. We've gone away from that for quite some time and definitely appreciate people like you for putting in the legwork. I know grassroots organizing is one of the hardest things to do. So I want to give you an opportunity to let people know where they can follow you to stay up to date on your efforts.
Thanks. Yeah. We are at nodesertdatacenter.com on our website, and our Instagram is No Desert Data Center with underscores between the words. And we are the No Desert Data Center Coalition.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Vivek, Renee, once again, really appreciate your guys' efforts. Let's stay in touch and let me know when there are updates. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for your time, James.
That is it for me this week. For more stories that the mainstream media is unwilling to cover, you can head on over to my YouTube channel, 5149 with James Lee. The link will be in the description below. As always, thank you for your time today and keep on tuning into Breaking Points.